Okay, welcome back to the second in the series of lectures on writing literature reviews. So in this one, we're going to be talking about the types and content of a literature review. Okay, in particular, this time we'll be discussing the following. Different types of literature reviews. So depending upon our audience and the type of work we're doing, there's not really a one-size-all sort of way of doing literature reviews. Second, we'll talk about the rationale for doing the literature review in those different contexts. And then we'll talk a little bit about the content of really what should be in a literature review. Okay, starting with the types of literature reviews. Okay, the literature review that you do will, of course, be dependent upon the purpose and intent of the research that you're doing, right? So the literature review is always a vehicle for the research that you yourself are doing, and it should be seen that way. We wanted to make a distinction, however, even at this early point in writing a literature review that really summarizes previous research findings from one that is really a review of research methods. Okay, now these two are not mutually exclusive. There are a number of cases when we might want to include both of these. Okay, we might want to be reviewing the previous literature and its findings, and we also might be wanting to review previous research methods in the same paper, and we'll learn a little bit more about what the sort of, why that might be. Okay, when we're writing a review of research findings, so these are we're looking at previous work that's done that our work will build upon in one way or another, our own research will build upon. We're writing the findings of those previous works. We want to be sure to group areas of research together. So what we're going to find as we're reading through the literature is we're going to find that we can kind of classify, like, okay, all this literature kind of falls into this subcategory, all literature here falls into this additional subcategory. We may have 2 or 3 of those, we may have 5 or 6. What we want to do is we want to be grouping our literature according to those subcategories. So we're going to be talking about all the literature in this subcategory, then all the literature in this subcategory, and so on and so forth. Our focus as we're writing, again, we want to be both concise and clear, but our focus should be on the findings of this work and the authors. So author found. And we should really lean towards inclusion. So we should, by that I mean is we want to err on the side of maybe including too many things rather than too few. We want a thorough construction of or picture of the pre-existing research and its findings and who did that work. When we're writing about research methods or we're reviewing the methods, this would be for a little different type of paper, right? If this is a paper where we can really count on our readership having a good, solid basis in the pre-existing literature and its findings, or if our paper is particularly, focused on methodological questions or introducing new methods, then a review of research methods may be appropriate, either exclusive or linked to a literature review findings. Here, our focus should really be on the development of method. So how has method adapted, changed, or altered as we move forward? How has the method been refined? We do not need to include all methods. We only need to include methods that are relevant to, again, the work at hand. Always the literature review of any type should be directed towards the work at hand. Okay, so what then is the rationale for the literature review? The rationale for the literature review really depends upon the work that we're doing, right? So if the study is contributing to existing research, which is probably the most common, right? So we're going to use fairly conventional methods. We're going to build upon existing theories, but there's maybe a gap in the existing knowledge. Okay. Well, then our literature review should categorize existing research by subfield and method, and those categories should illustrate the gap in research, which is where we're going to place or do our work, right? So, there's been a lot of work done in this area, a lot of work done in this area, but here there's this area right in the middle where not much has been done, and so we're going to fill in that area. Okay, If the study establishes a new theory, right, so that you're going to sort of start, you've got a new explanation for why this is the way it is. Okay, well then the literature should show conclusively that existing theory and methods or methods are insufficient to are insufficient to address the problem at hand. That is, to address the problem of the study at hand. Okay. If the study addresses a current problem, right? So there's some problem, out there in the world, and our study is here to talk about this, right? Well, then the literature should include similar problems and their solutions. Right? If the study corrects a lack of information about a given topic, so this is just a thing we just don't know about, and so we need to learn more about it. Well, then the literature should show the significance of the topic. So why, okay, so there's lots of things we don't know about. Why should we care about knowing them? Okay, well, your literature review should make that very clear. Now, this is not to say that any of these are mutually exclusive, right? Your study may do multiple things, right? So, for example, your study may introduce a new theory or method, right? And it might address a current problem, right? So in your literature review, would want to make sure to really hit both of those, right, from the previous slide. Similarly, the breadth of the study, is going to impact the breadth of your literature review. So if the focus of your study is very narrow, right, you're only intending to write a small conference paper or essay on the topic, then your literature review is going to be quite brief, right, and really focused in on the work that you're looking to do. Okay. Whereas if you're writing a book or a dissertation or some other really large research project, your literature review is going to really need to be quite extensive, right? So the broader the question at hand, the broader the literature review is going to have to be, because again, it's going to have to build into or build up to, I guess would be a better way of saying, the work that you're proposing to do. Okay. Finally, of course, the extent of the previous work can impact the necessary literature review, right? So if there's more relevant research that's been done in the area that you are looking to do your work, right, then your literature review is going to have to reflect that. Okay. So it's kind of one of those things, like you do the work up front or you do it later on, right? So if you're researching in a relatively new field that doesn't have a lot of literature, now you're gonna have to put a lot of more work into developing method, developing your models, right? Being very careful on how you conduct your analysis and being very cautious about any findings you might get, right? Whereas if you're writing in a more established field, then your literature review needs to be more extensive, but your methods will be more established for you. Your conclusions you're able to draw will be likely to be a little stronger than they might otherwise be. And this is why for new writers and new researchers, generally, it's recommended that those new researchers work in established fields. And again, why one of the first steps in learning to write and do research is to start thinking about how to do a good literature review, because again, this is the foundation for good research, and particularly for newish researchers working in established fields is I don't want to say it's the right way to go about doing things, but it's certainly it's maybe a little easier. Okay, all right. Okay, so finally then, what should be in our literature review? What makes for a good literature review? Well, again, it depends upon the breadth of the work, right? So if we're just writing a short essay, maybe we don't have all these things. But if we're writing a complete study, right, a dissertation, a book, or even a full-blown research paper, probably we want to have all these things. Okay, so over here we see this list, right? Our literature review should have a clear rationale for what has been included and excluded from the literature search. So what types of things did we look for and what we didn't look at? So for example, we may want to confine our literature search to just peer-reviewed journal articles, maybe books. And we may want to exclude references from popular press, like like newspaper and magazines. Okay, we should have some kind of reason why we did that, right? And that should be included in the literature review. There should be a clear distinction between what's been done and what remains to be done. Okay. The study at hand, so our work, right, it should be situated within the literature, right? So it should be clear where the gaps in the literature are and how we see our work fitting into and contributing to that literature. The vocabulary of our study should be established and clear, right? And it should be established and clear based upon vocabulary used in the literature, right? We should be speaking using the same terminology, same words as much as possible as others working in our field or others who might seek to work in our field. Why? First, to be clear, right, about what we're trying to say. And then second of all, to make work for the researchers yet to come a little bit easier. Okay. We should have discussed all the relevant variables, both ones that we've included, and if other studies have included different variables that we've chosen not to include for whatever reason, our literature review should make clear why we might be going in this direction or another. Okay. You'll say more about this, right, in your methods section, in your data section of a paper, right? But in the literature review, we still want to start building this foundation for what type of variables we're including in our analysis. There should be a discussion of the dominant as well as relevant alternative methodologies in our literature review. There should be a clear rationale for the work that we're going to conduct, right? So there should be some significance presented in the literature review. Why is this work significant? Why are we doing it? Okay. And then finally, our presentation should be both clear and concise as much as possible. It may seem, overwhelming to write these things, when you're barely just getting started. But let me assure you that once you get on a roll with these things, things can run away from you pretty quickly, and you end up spending far too much time in your literature review on this paper or that paper, maybe just because the paper was long, right? And you just keep going on. And that's probably not the right way to do things. You should be considering your literature review, again, should be designed in such a way to construct a picture or an image of the pre-existing work, and in some cases the pre-existing methods relevant to the work that you're doing. Okay, and that's it, right? I'm going to try to keep these videos short because I think they'll be more useful to you and sort of be easier to let's be better. So, okay, all right. So that's it for number 2. We'll be back very soon with number 3. Okay, take care, everybody. Have a great afternoon, and we'll hope to see you all soon. Bye.